Welcome to Creature Covenant with Dr. Adriana, a world movement that celebrates the healing power of the sacred human-animal bond. Now, here is Dr. Adriana.
Well, hello again to another chapter of Creature Covenant. Today I have a wonderful and very gifted guest. She is an amazing animal communicator, and it's an honor for me to have her here. Miss Laila del Monte. She is an expert animal communicator and consultant all over the world. She earned her master's degree in history of religion from the Sorbonne in Paris, and she became an acclaimed flamenco dancer. Then now, or what we know her from, is she's very famous animal communicator in the United States and Europe. A lot of people in the animal world consult with her experts in solving problems with animals, particularly horses. She's been really a life savior in animals' lives, in rescuing, finding lost pets, helping animals healed, injured animals healed not only physically but also spiritually. So she is the author of multiple books in French, Spanish, and English. And she's the author of Psychic Communicator with Animals for Healing, for Health and Healing. And this is, I have it right here. It's like my number one book right now that I'm reading. So Laila, with no further ado, I'm so happy to see you, to have you here finally, and to share your art and your gift with our audience. Laila, thank you so much.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you.
Well, Laila, I find it particularly interesting how you started your communication with animals, because this is a gift that you've known or had for since you have memory, right?
Yeah.
So you started as you knew of your abilities as a child, right? Growing up in Spain.
Well, I didn't think of them as abilities. It was just normal for me.
Uh-huh.
So I was raised in France. I was born in America, raised in France and in Spain. And we used to go to this island in Spain where my parents used to write their writers. And there was a farm with a lot of animals there. And I would get information, but for me, it was completely normal. I never thought of it as anything as a gift, ability, none of those words, it was completely something obvious.
So yes, and when you read the book, you can actually tell that interaction happens so naturally, from bugs to like your farm animals, you can like really relate with them,
Yes.
and you can actually feel what they were feeling. I think that's just such an amazing gift, such a blessing to have. It seemed like at some point in your life, especially when you moved and you went to study in France, then that kind of like you did not have, you still had that ability, but then it wasn't as present in your life, right? We were more like in our heads.
The thing is, I was studying philosophy, literature, with a very intellectual background. And so I had to integrate, so I never spoke about this part. It was always present, but I kind of just never mentioned it. And people they figured I had like these abilities, but they would usually ask me in school, like, does my boyfriend love me? Things like that. Is he going to love me? Is he going to stay with me? And so they would consult me a lot for psychic kind of things. Because once they figured out that I could say things, but the part with the animals, I never really talked about it.
That's so amazing. And then how do you transition or became a flamenco dancer? Is that something that you always had cultivated as a child?
Yes. I mean, I started dancing when I was 6. So I started with classical dance, and my teachers were Russian. So we did classical, then Russian. And I was in the theater very early. I was 10 years old when I was in the big Champs-Élysées theater. So I started off really young. And it just kind of like also came pretty naturally. I never really thought about it because as I spent a lot of time in Spain, I was very linked to Spanish culture. So I knew the music and the singing. And And it was kind of the natural. When I gave up ballet, I tried a few things like modern dance, didn't work for me. I didn't really like it. And I kind of went straight into Spanish dance, but my background was classical originally.
Wow.
But I didn't have the body for classical dancing. You'd have to like be really skinny and, and all that. And I was like, oh, damn it, I have chest, I have hips, I have all that stuff, not good.
There is so much passion, so much spirit in the art of flamenco, in itself, the culture, the Spanish culture, the traditions, right?
Yes.
It's, to me, it's like very special in my heart too. It is kind of special when you read in your book how your actual communication and spiritual abilities and spiritual experiences really influence your expression to your art.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of competition, a lot of technique, a lot of hard work behind that, right? It just doesn't happen, right? It's just something that you develop through training, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, it all seems like the art is also a way of spirit to express itself through you.
Yes,
right?
It is. I mean, flamenco for women and for men also, but for women, it really allows a very strong outlet for expression, where you can express all kinds of emotions and without coding. It's very free and with a lot of power. And of course, then it's like being a musician too, because you're making music with your footwork. It's very disciplined. It's very rigorous. It's not just like you're not just moving around. I mean, all dance forms are like that, but this one includes the aspect of music with it. So yes, it's a wonderful expression. And when you reach a higher level, then you can allow more the feeling or the spirit coming through you, or that for that you have to have a higher level of technique. It's not at the beginning when one starts learning. Takes years.
You had multiple spiritual experiences that will not only lead to what you are right now, your full expression, your full expertise of communicating with animals, but also you had that experience in you where you were healed, right? Mm-hmm. You experienced some healing, some physical healing that was done spiritually too, and allowed you to continue to dance when you were told that you were not going to be able to dance again. Yes. How was that?
Yes. I mean, to me, all the experiences I've had a lot of, near-death experience, healing, all of those. Those are the ones that really brought me, I think, molded who I am and what I'm doing today, and the ability to also advise people when they've lost their animals, for example, or when people consult me for sick animals and we have to do healing. It's because I've gone through all of that, so I understand it. But I think that's what's really molded me. And if I could allow myself to say so, I mean, without being, I don't want to sound presumptuous or anything, but I feel, I mean, to me, everything I know and everything I've done is from the higher levels of other dimensions. It's not Laila, really. It's because I was helped. That's what I feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you feel like this help in this help from spirit, to put it that way, that stays with you. It's always with you, right?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So that you feel like this spiritual connection that you have with other realms is always with you, right?
Yes.
They've told you that they were always going to be with you, right?
Yes. I mean, there are periods of life where you feel that no one's around, and you start, sinking down, and especially difficult periods like it's been like this year. It's been a mixture of moments, incredible moments with like tons of messages of what's going to happen and what's going on, and then moments where you feel you're abandoned, even though you're not. But that as a human being, you fluctuate through all these passages, but they are always there. Yes.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
There was one particular experience that you had in Yellowstone Park a few years ago here in the United States. And that was reading that experience that you had. I can only imagine first of what a privilege that must have been to just go through that. And not only that, but the power that you feel at that moment, and then how that transformed your life.
Yes.
You please share that with us?
Yes. Well, I mean, I recount the story in the first book. I mean, there's only one book in English. All the other books are in French and in Spanish and Italian now. So yes, I was in Yellowstone, and there's this encounter with this wolf, and there's this long encounter where we were just looking at each other in each other's eyes, and he was very, very close to me, and that was like that was actually the beginning of all the spiritual experiences after the big ones. I mean, I had a bunch before that, but it's kind of was the how do you say, the spark that initiated everything, because right after that I started getting these really blissful experiences, and the experiences of going into this nothingness, this void, and then the contact with the beings of light. It was right after that same night after the encounter with the wolf. So in my mind, I'm pretty convinced that, I mean, I adore wolves. I wanted to see a wolf, but I've realized over the years, I've understood that there wasn't even probably a real wolf. It was probably a being of light that took the form of a wolf, because probably that's what I would have accepted at the time.
Yeah.
But that's what I've brought out my emotion or my sense of seeking something, because I wanted to see a wolf when I went to Yellowstone. It's like I had that one-track mind, I want to see a wolf. I want to see a wolf.
Wow.
It was an extraordinary experience. Extraordinary. And it changed my whole life anyhow.
And, it's hard to describe, though. What I understand is that at that moment, you felt like you were part of a whole, right? A wholeness,
yes,
right? You were
absolutely.
connected.
Yes.
You were the wolf was you. You were earth. You were everything, right?
Yes.
You feel that connection.
Yes, there was an incredible connection. It was just such an incredible experience. It's so hard to describe, because I lost completely the sense of self. And so there was the experience on the moment, but then there's everything that it triggered right after that, which I wouldn't even say that's what it triggered. I think it was part of the whole thing that was happening. Yes.
An incredible amount of love, I would imagine, like the experience of love in every sense, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, how beautiful. How beautiful.
Yes.
I have had dreams about similar things, like you can feel in my dreams. I have felt that tremendous love, somewhat of an spiritual connection as well, with other beings, what I believe are my family.
Yeah.
But I do feel like animals, and this is part of a conversation where animals are really part of that family. I feel like those animals that are part of our lives, that come into our lives at certain points of our lives. And in my own personal experience, I think that for anybody out there that has experienced the blessing of having an animal companion, they all come in certain times of our lives, and from each one we learn something.
Absolutely.
Right? Or they're there for us, right? For a special time in our lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is so beautiful. Now, for many, we don't understand how really animal communication happens. It's not really like having a conversation like you and I were having, right? It's a different type of communication. Yeah. How does that happen?
Yes. So according to my own experience, the way it presents itself is that you get information in the form of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognition. So, and even clairolfactive. So clairvoyance, you receive pictures. Clairaudience, you're hearing words and sounds. Clairsentience, you're getting emotional and physical feelings. Claircognition is you know things. And the sense of smell is that you're getting information through the sense of smell, of course, inside of you. It's rare that you smell it with your nostril, but you're getting the sense of smell inside of you. And so that is the telepathic communication. It happens that way. And where people often make the mistake is they think it's going to be a dialogue, like the way we're talking, you and me, with words, but it's not with words. It's conveyed in another way, but it's still that's what we call it, a communication.
And we tend to be so much in our heads in our daily lives. Myself, for example, I'm a veterinarian, and we are like matter of fact, checking facts, looking at blood works, looking at the animal. What are the facts? What are the things? And sometimes there's this part of what I do that I wish I knew what he's feeling, or I wish I knew what is triggering this fear or this experience, or how could I better help,
Yep.
It's like this part that is missing in what I'm doing, that I feel like if I had that ability, I could be a better veterinarian. Just put it that way.
But, absolutely. But you can, because I have the complete proof, because I taught in the La Complutense, the Veterinarian University of Madrid, Equine Veterinary University of Madrid, and I was invited by the director, which was like absolutely amazing, and it didn't happen again. It was like the one time, and I wish it had happened more. So I had professors, I had the director there, the professors and the students, and they had incredible results. And the professors, they couldn't believe it, because they really did not expect that. They thought, oh, well, a class, but they took it out of curiosity, and because the director told them to go. And they realized that it completely combines with their veterinary knowledge, which is through observation, through knowledge, investigation, etc. And they realized that if they combine both, they had much more access to information. And I specifically had one vet. He was amazing. He's an equine vet, and he came all the way from Murcia. This was in Madrid. He traveled all the way from Murcia to do the workshop. He had incredible results. He couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So that was one of my dreams, is to give the course to veterinarians. I just haven't managed to get it together yet, but that's still part of one of my dreams, because I collaborate with a holistic vet very often, and we exchange cases and we talk, and it's still one of my dreams to do it. It's still there.
That's awesome. Well, let me know, because I would like to collaborate.
Yes, well, it's a question of putting it together,
Yes, absolutely. Because I feel like that's such an important thing. I try to be in my practice, I try to be as putting myself in their place.
Yes.
I understand that they're all taking all of these emotions and all of these sounds and all of these elements that we're putting in front of them, and we're touching them and we're grabbing them. So I can only imagine what they go through. And some of them are just super happy, and other ones are just fearful.
Yeah, of course.
So
and then there's trauma, there's so many things. But it's true that it allows, I've experienced that. I've done, when I used to teach in Europe a lot, not now I'm teaching online because I can't travel because of the pandemic. But before, I used to travel a lot, and I've always had at least 2 veterinarians per class, chiropractors, veterinarians, horse dentists, all kinds of professionals. And I've had a lot of veterinarians take the classes, and most of them, except if they really have getting blocked and they can't do it, but most of them have said it's been really useful for them, because it's opened up a whole other field, a whole other aspect of their understanding.
That's so amazing. I think that a lot of people that are in the animal world, not just veterinarians, veterinary technicians, people in research, people that work with animals day in and day out, trainers. There's so many disciplines that involve animals in rescue, animals that have been traumatized.
Exactly.
And then animals that also work with us to help us humans heal, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's many fields, many possibilities. And the more we're going, the bigger the role they're taking in everyone's life. And I saw it even just during the pandemic. There was so many adoptions, because people, they had this need to get down to basic, to the reality, to tangible love, And I think it wasn't just companionship. Of course, it was companionship. That's why there were so many adoptions. But it's also because living in a world where no one knows where the truth is, it's just, you can't get more truthful than that. Just more real.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So that's awesome. And I feel like also with animals, we do have, especially when we're talking about like therapy animals, they can reach to us in a level that no other human being can.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I worked with people who do therapy, use horses as therapy for autistic children. And I mean, the people who I've worked with those horses actually, you know, many times with different types of people. And first of all, the horses that do that are just like incredible. They're just amazing beings because it takes a lot out of them to work with autistic kids. But the results are incredible.
Yeah.
Results are incredible.
Like horses can even, they're very sensitive to us, right? They can perceive a lot of our suffering, a lot of our anger, and a lot of our like emotions, human emotions, and get in tune with that, right?
Yes. But what's incredible is that like you can get horses that are very fiery, that are very hot, and they're not when they're with an autistic kid, they're not going to behave at all in the same way as they're going to behave with a rider. I mean, all of a sudden they just know. They understand that the kid has these series of needs, and there's a complete change of behavior. It's incredible. They just accept a lot of things they would never accept from the rider or the trainer.
Yeah, here in the United States, there are a lot of programs with wild horses, you know, the Mustangs.
Yes.
Trying to get these horses to be trained so that they can get adopted by families. Because there's overpopulations in certain areas, and they become a problem, right?
Yeah.
They thrive so much, and then so they don't want to get rid of, the government doesn't, hope not, want to get rid of the horses, rather just trying to give them an alternative to become like domestic animals and farm animals, or being part of the human life. And then in that, there's a lot of programs that involve inmates in jails.
Yeah.
And, there's also veterans suffering from PTSD, and hearing their experiences and how that interaction with animals have changed their lives. It's just so amazing that no therapist can really achieve that level of success like the interaction of with the horse, because there's also a broken animal and then a broken human being. Yeah. And how they heal each other. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. That's true.
So pets and animals in general, they seem to, like we have talked about this, they come to us in a specific time in our lives, but also it comes to a point where they depart.
Yes.
And that moment of pet loss is extremely saddening, you know. I recently lost my dog Gizmo, and it still hurts me. And he had bone cancer, and unfortunately, you know, it was already in metastasize, and so I lost him recently, and that was really tough, you know. And I deal with pet loss and pet euthanasia, and I counsel people about it and what to look for and what their body language can be, and what are the signs to look for. What are they trying to tell us? You know, sometimes when it's your own animal, your own pet is a different story, because you're trying to hang on to the emotion and like, yes. So it's really tough to see them go, and you know that it's their time, because in my own personal experience, Gizmo would go away when he was a dog that would want to be always with us, and he would start going away by himself in a different room that he never went to. So I said, well, I understand what you're trying to tell me, and not eating for more than one time. And so I knew it was time. So a lot of questions that people have is, at the moment of departure, what happens to their soul? What happens to their spirit? Are they received by angels or other animals? What happens at that moment?
Yes. So as you, I mean, that's my main point of interest, like one of my main themes on which I've, spoken the most and written the most about is the departure. Because it's difficult to find answers, and because, as you have experienced in just in another way, the suffering of people when they lose, and of course I've experienced it myself. From what I've learned with the beings of light that have come to guide me and to help me, and that work with me, from what I've learned, so I'm not saying I know the whole truth, I'm just saying only what I know. They have their own guides. So they don't need help to get to the other side. They just need the help that we give them, as you do as a vet, to get just to the moment of departure. Once the euthanasia is done, or once they've departed on their own, they have their own guides who come and get them. And yes, there are places where, and I call them clinics. I mean, it might not be the right word, but I call them clinics of the other side, where they come and they take them and they kind of put them back together. They receive them. They receive the being, the spirit. And yes, and they're like put back together, if you want me to say it that way. Mm-hmm. And then when they reach a certain time, they return to the level of frequency that corresponds to them, to their beings. And from that point on, they would be making decisions as to where they would be going. What would they be experiencing next? That's so far as what I know,
So they could choose to come back to us, right?
They can. But what people need to understand is, like, they say, well, why won't they choose to come back to me? And it might not necessarily be the evolution of the soul. I mean, because sometimes they've accomplished something with us and they need to evolve in another way. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to find them again. We're going to be together again, of course, because we are going to reunite. But sometimes they just finished what they had to do.
Exactly. Yeah. They all have a mission like we do, right?
Yes, they have a mission.
A person and a mission, yes, and a purpose. Yeah. And they all have their own, we're all part of the same thing anyways, right?
Yes, exactly.
And when, so it is peaceful for me to know that he is okay and that he didn't suffer any kind of pain, or a lot of people feel guilty about putting the pets to sleep, and I don't think that it should be a moment of feeling guilty. I think it's a moment.
No, not at all. I think it's a gesture of compassion.
Yes.
It's a moment that you can free them, because if not, they're going to, I mean, so many people, they either they do too early or they do too late.
Yes.
So too late is not good either, because then why doesn't have to wait for all that suffering that one doesn't have to? I mean, I've experienced too late, and the regret is tremendous. And it was beyond my choice of circumstances. I was a situation where, with my dog, where I couldn't choose the situation. So because I wasn't there, the dog, it wasn't with me. And the guilt after, and the regrets. And then there's other people who do it too early, and they also have a lot of guilt and regret. So that there's that right moment. And I think euthanasia is a fantastic tool. It's a gesture of compassion that can free them.
Totally. You're freeing them from the pain, from a body that's really shutting down.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
You just have to free that spirit.
Yes.
Let it go back. And it's the ultimate love act from us, because the way I see it is, we love him so much, I'd rather take the pain myself.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing them in my life anymore.
I know.
But freedom, right?
I know.
So that's just it's so enlightening, because I a lot of times we fear for the lives of so many pets or animals in general that are being hunted, being abused. And it's good to know that regardless of what we subject them in this world, or they are subjected to, no matter what, when they're free, their spirit is free,
Yes.
they're healed, and
Yes.
they can continue on their journey.
Exactly.
That is beautiful. It's wonderful to know that.
Yeah.
So we already answered that question. If they return to us, is really their choice, right?
Yeah.
It's part of their journey, or their,
Yes.
is really their choice, right?
Yeah.
All right, Laila. I mean, I would talk hours and hours about this one subject. And
Yes.
it is touchy-feely still for me because of my recent loss.
I know.
And every time, there's so many connections that I've shared. I've had the blessing of animals being part of my life since birth. So it's always something that is ever giving, always beautiful. And I think that we are, with animals, what we experience is just pure unconditional love, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no judgment attached to that.
Absolutely.
It's just, I feel that that's why it's sometimes harder for us to lose an animal than it is to lose a human being. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But it can be that way,
Yeah.
So if people want to learn how to communicate with animals,
yes,
contact you if they have any consultations about their pets or animals that are suffering, or they would like to help them, or they would like to interview you.
Yes.
How can they find you?
Okay, so there's the website, lailadelmonte.com. It's Laila. There's consultations there's a big waiting list for the consultations, but there's consultations for communications or deceased animals. There's energy healing for sick animals. I've been doing that for many, many years. That's my pet subject, And then if people want to learn animal communication, it depends what language. So in French, we have live workshops every month online for the moment. I used to have live workshops in Madrid in Spain, but for the moment I can't travel. So I'm putting together a series of classes that are going to be in English and in Spanish that people could purchase to learn animal communication. And there might be some live ones. People have to sign up basically on the website. Yeah, that's the best thing. They just sign up to the newsletter, so we keep the email and we'll send it out when we get it all together.
And when you look you up, you're gonna find lots and lots and lots of videos and interviews, and even a movie. Yes. That you've been taking. I saw the movie and I thought it was fascinating. Yes. And I said, wow, I really need to interview this lady one day. And thank you. Thank you for being here. You're such a wonderful and gifted human being, and it's been an honor to have you in our show. For all of them out there, thank you for your company and for listening, and we'll see you next time with another expert guest.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.